It's Wednesday the 1st of March 2017, and you are listening to the Paul Clark Podcast. So, political correctness. Have we benefited, do you think, from political correctness? Has our society benefited from being politically correct? Or has political correctness gone too far? PC gone mad. That's something you hear quite a lot, isn't it? I don't know if you've heard, but there's a new adaptation of Beauty and the Beast about to take to the big screen. Coming soon to a cinema near you, Beauty and the Beast. Now, the traditional story, the old classic story of Beauty and the Beast, if memory serves me right. By the way, my only experience, the only version of Beauty and the Beast that I have bore witness to was the Walt Disney film, the Disney movie. I think that film was late 80s, early 90s? 90s, 80s? Around then. Around the late 80s, early 90s, if memory serves me right. I remember watching it with my mom, thought it was okay. I think I saw it on VHS, on video cassette. That's how old I am. Quite enjoyed it. Not something I would probably go off to the cinema to see, but yeah, it was alright. I bear it no ill will. Well, there's going to be a new adaptation of Beauty and the Beast. And if memory recalls, the story of Beauty and the Beast is that of a woman, Belle, who is taken against her will, taken back to the castle of this beast. This beast, who I believe later on transforms into a human male, or maybe it's like Jekyll and Hyde. I can't remember, but a bit like Jekyll and Hyde, where he has the ability to go between being a beast who's hideous and no woman would ever look at twice, to them being this handsome prince, this handsome man. The story is that's what it's like, as far as I recall, anyway. But this new adaptation of Beauty and the Beast, this new take, which comes out, as I say, I think later this year or certainly early next year, completely just reshapes the whole thing. And instead of it being the story of Belle, the woman who ends up falling in love with a beast, it's now the story of a man who ends up falling in love with a beast. Yes, Beauty and the Beast will now become a gay, homosexual love story. And I have no problem with homosexuality. I really don't care. But I do care when poetic license is taken, when things in our culture, in our films and television and literature, are transformed and changed and tampered with to represent minorities and certain sectors of society. This actually goes back to a previous podcast, not of my own, but my friend Alex. Another little plug for his podcast. Do go and check it out. But in his last podcast, in his previous podcast, he talks about his fears and how he worries that TV shows, films and television shows and books, things that he loves, will one day be changed, one day be altered, or if not completely destroyed, because they don't represent certain sectors, certain minorities. They don't represent liberal values enough in the modern world. So they'll either be rewritten, changed, edited, or just plain won't exist anymore. Go and listen to that podcast of his, because it's very good. But this kind of plays into that a little bit. Because should Beauty and the Beast, something that we know to be a love story between this beast and this woman who ends up falling in love with this beast, like only Belle, only the love of a good woman can tame the savage beast. But that's now going to be altered, changed, for nothing other than what I perceive to be political correctness, and political correctness gone mad. I'm not sure how I feel about that, I'm not sure how I feel about that. My previous podcast that I did just yesterday, I spoke in there about transgenderism and how there's a kids show right now on Children's BBC that revolves around the subject of being transgender, and how does this character, this schoolboy, who now wants to become a girl, or is it a schoolgirl that wants to become a boy? Whatever, doesn't really make much of a difference. But the premise of the story is wanting to change, and wanting to be something that you're not, and how people should accept that. Well, maybe they should accept it, but should we accept when things in our culture, in our society, films and television shows of yesteryear, when books are updated and changed to fit a liberal, left-wing agenda? Do you not think that's a step too far? Because I do. And I do worry, as Alex says in his podcast, I worry about the shows that I like. Now, Beauty and the Beast actually means nothing to me, so they can kind of do whatever they want with that. But just thinking in particular of Doctor Who here, a show that is close to many people's hearts, including my own, I worry that we will eventually see a female Doctor, and even then, possibly a transgender Doctor, and for no other reason than to be politically correct. Could it be one day? Could it be one day that the Doctor is gay? That he has a homosexual relationship with one of his companions? I mean, the Doctor is already a bit of a gay icon in certain sectors of the gay community. What's to stop the next showrunner, or the one after that, or the one after that, or the one after that, taking it to the 8th degree? For no other reason than to be politically correct. And particularly now in the world we live in, where it feels that liberalism and liberal left-leaning values are under threat. That's how liberals feel. They feel right now, in the wake of Brexit and the wake of Trump, that they and their values are currently under threat, and they need to reconfirm their beliefs and fight for what they believe, fight for the equality of homosexualities, the equality of black and Asian and Muslim and ethnic people, fight for the equality and the right for people to change their gender. Is all this not going a little bit too far? I mean, when it's at the sacrifice, at the behest of literature and films and television shows, does it not go too far? Comment below. Let me know what you think. So in yesterday's podcast, it proved to be a very divisive podcast. I got some feedback, some of it good, some of it not so good. But there's one email that sticks out in particular. And I'm not going to read the whole thing out. But the gist of it is disapproval for what I did. People saw it as a step too far. And this person, and by the way, trust me, I know who this person is. I know exactly who this person is. And understand, you are nothing to me. Okay? You are absolutely nothing to me. And thank you very much. I'm glad you're listening to these podcasts. How you're finding them, how you're getting access to them, I do not know, considering the fact that I don't actually have you on my social media. But I would imagine that I'm tagging people in who you probably know. So I'm tagging in people that I know that you still have connections to, and therefore you're listening to my podcast that way. And I believe that you probably still have my email address. Maybe I should block you. Maybe I should block you from my Hotmail account as well, huh? What do you think of that? But this person writes, I'll read a little bit out here. Dear Mr. Clark, very formal, very formal. I've been listening to your podcast, and your most recent one disgusted me. I know you like to play the shock jock. I know you like to play the big I am. But your views are both disgraceful and appalling, much like yourself. And for your own well-being, I would advise that you cease, stop, and desist from further hate speech. And it has the name at the bottom, which I refuse to read out. There's much more to that email, by the way. There's a lot of personal stuff in there. Trust me, it's fine. Honestly, it's fine. But that's the core essence of what I wanted to focus on. Listen, this is the Paul Clark podcast, okay? Sometimes you'll agree with what I say. Sometimes you won't agree with what I say. Now, maybe the previous podcast, maybe in some people's mind, it was a step too far. But it's just an opinion. That's all it is. It's an opinion. Which you, if this person had any talent, by the way, which I know for a fact they don't, but if they had any ability to speak and broadcast, they would be able to go off and do themselves. And they would be able to go off, do a podcast themselves, and rebuttal the things that I've said. Those are my views on the subject of transgenderism. Those are my views. That's how I feel about the subject. Some people will agree, some people will disagree. But that's good. That's what I want. And they say that I'm trying to be the shock jock, the big I am. Trust me. Believe you me, if I was trying to be a shock jock, you would know about it. I would make the whole of the World Wide Web know about it. I have probably learnt from the best. I've got many a shock jock that I could use as an influence. Someone to influence me in bad behaviour of the airwaves. That I wouldn't even need to try and be shocking at this point. I would just naturally just fall into it. But I do, believe it or not, even though sometimes it might seem hard to believe with these podcasts, but I do try and come on here with an honest opinion and be consistent and concise. Now, sometimes that doesn't work. In fact, a lot of the times that doesn't work. But still, I try. I try to stay on topic, and I try to stay consistent with my views. But sometimes those views will offend people. But being offended by what I say only works and has an impact when I actually care about the person. And this person, believe you me, I stopped caring about a long, long time ago. Maybe I should name them. Maybe I should name who she is. Maybe. She's obviously obsessed with me. It's pretty obvious at this point. Obviously obsessed with me. Probably actually is still holding a candle for me. Well, get over yourself, honey, because you're not all that. I've seen your profile picture on Facebook. You look like a beached whale. You're disgusting. You're a disgusting, vile woman. How's that for being shocking? Because I have the ability to probably bring you down if I wanted to. If I wanted to be shocking and outrageous and verbally offensive, believe you me, I would start with you. And I would make you have a nervous breakdown on the air. I would record and broadcast your breakdown and put it on here on my podcast for people to listen to. That's how shocking I could possibly be if I wanted to. But I've moved on since them days. And now I just give you my points of view on the things that I think are worth talking about. Thanks so much for listening to the Paul Clark podcast.